Hello, this is Books of the Stock Market. How's everyone doing? As for me, I'm doing pretty well. It's much colder than the week before, so it's a bit cold when I go for my run. I think when it's colder, I run much slower for some reason. I believe it should be the other way around since technically your body is using less energy to keep yourself cool, so you should be able to run faster. Anyways, for this week, we're going to do some technical analysis on the 3 cryptos that I have positions in. We will start off with Bitcoin because that is the crypto that matters the most, and then move on to Ethereum and Litecoin. But before we do that, remember to like, subscribe, and press the notification bell for me as it really helps the channel. Let's do an extensive portfolio update so everyone has some context on why I'm dedicating a whole video on cryptocurrencies. My entire Bitcoin allocation is in the form of GBTC in my Roth. Currently I have 118 shares of GBTC. As you can see, I am down $260 for the day, but I gained $261 off this trade. As for when I bought these shares, I bought 118 shares over 3 days. So I bought 52 in late March at a price of $51.55. I bought 16 shares back on April 6 for the price of $51.34. Finally, I bought 50 shares on April 8 for the price of $49.15. I didn't really do any technical analysis when buying on these days, and I don't even think these days were days when Bitcoin dropped. I just bought them because I knew that ultimately the price is irrelevant because I firmly believe that Bitcoin will continue to rise until Q3 or Q4 of this year. Obviously, if I bought during a dip and properly dollar cost averaged, I would have squeezed out several more shares. But I think I was feeling a bit lazy and maybe there was some FOMO because I knew Bitcoin could just rise suddenly in a day. Now, let's look at my largest position. I have 3 Ethers and they were bought with an average cost basis of $609.87. I believe I bought them sometime last year, and even then, I thought I was paying more for them than I actually wanted to. I believe Ethereum was trading between the $400 and $500 range for months, but I saw it rise to $600 suddenly. This caused a bit of FOMO and I just bought 3 so I wouldn't miss it. Anyways, this trade worked out in the end as we see Ethereum trading at the $2,300 area. I'm up 284.3% in unrealized gains and I'm not even thinking about selling any of this. As for Litecoin, I bought around 12 of them for the average cost basis of $158.58. I'm up around 66% in unrealized gains. I believe this is my worst trade so far. The main reason I think this is the worst trade so far is because Litecoin was trading below the $100 range for a while. I was eyeing this trade, but I never fully committed at this price point because I knew that Litecoin is pretty much a dead project. I believe the founder of Litecoin sold all his Litecoin and there were no new projects under development. Furthermore, on the subreddit pages such as r/cryptocurrency, there is no hype around this coin. I believe that hype is what drives up the coin most, especially during the bull cycle phase. I eventually bought it due to 2 reasons. The first reason is because I wanted some diversity within crypto. And with the tools I had in Robinhood, this was the only legit crypto. But in the end, the argument for diversity is pretty weak as if Bitcoin falls, all coins fall. The second reason is that I knew Litecoin was lagging behind all the other cryptos. I will explain this further, but Litecoin was lagging behind other cryptocurrencies in terms of price, so I decided to buy a bunch of them in the hopes that it will move soon. That portfolio update out of the way, let's do some technical analysis on Bitcoin. We saw Bitcoin climb after we broke out of this narrow channel. Currently, Bitcoin is only up around 30% from its recent low, so there's more room to go. Now, let's look at this line. This line is the red dotted line you saw in the last picture, and this line used to be the most important line. This line was intact ever since last year and has been a region of support and resistance for a long time. Currently, this line is pretty irrelevant but can be an important level of resistance as price continues to rise. Other than that, if we redraw the red line a bit, we see this line where it still interacts with price as a region of support and resistance. However, like the first line, this line seems to have become irrelevant in the most recent months, but this line can serve as an important level of resistance when price eventually meets it. The most important line currently is this purple line that I've drawn. As you can see, this purple line has been intact since last January. However, more importantly, we see that every time Bitcoin drops, it usually finds this region as support. As for technical patterns, we might have a rising wedge forming as we see a price swinging in a more narrow fashion. A rising wedge in an uptrend is usually a bearish pattern as once we break out of this wedge, we usually see a move to the downside. However, I'm not really confident in this pattern because the upper trend line only has 2 touches on it, and I think we need more touches before we can confirm this pattern. Overall, I'm not really sure where price goes from here, as the rising wedge doesn't look so convincing and we're still off from any resistance lines. Therefore, this uncertainty could mean that price will continue to rise until we complete the potential rising wedge or we see a price hit the resistance line. Furthermore, Bitcoin usually runs up 140% at the maximum and 40% at the minimum if we look at the past price movements. Like I said before, we're only up 30% from the recent low, so at minimum, we should see another 10% to the upside. Now, let's move on to Ethereum. This is my current chart of Ethereum, and we see that it broke out of this purple horizontal line. As you can see, Ethereum has been trading in between the purple line and this reddish-orange line for quite a while now. It finally broke out of this purple line, which is around the $1,950 range. We even got 2 retests of this line to confirm it as support. This purple line is now a very strong support level, as price has already interacted with it twice in the span of few days. We currently see price shooting upwards in a more violent fashion than Bitcoin. This is expected, as altcoins always have outperformed Bitcoin even in the previous bull cycle in 2017. As for patterns, a rising wedge is all we see. As you can see in the 2 black lines, a rising wedge seems to be forming. The lower line is more legit because we see that price seems to touch it very often. However, the upper trend line only has 2 touches. Once again, I'm not really sure about this rising wedge pattern, as there are 2 little touches on the upper trend line. Maybe as we see price develop, we can see more touches for the upper trend line. Also, if I try to angle the lower black line a little bit different, we get a better fit, but in the end, we still run into the same problem where the upper trend line is not supported with enough data points. Other than that, we're up over 50% in just 3 weeks, which is pretty awesome. This is my Litecoin chart, and we see that we broke out of the triangle that I drew perfectly. I gotta pat myself on the back for this one. We saw Litecoin almost make a perfect symmetrical triangle. We see that the lower line had multiple touches as well as the upper trend line. We got a perfect symmetrical triangle drawn, and we also broke out of it around 3/4 of the triangle. I knew that it would break out to the upside because when reading symmetrical triangles, you had to identify if the asset is bullish or bearish. Since we're in the bull cycle phase and we saw other cryptos pumping left and right, it is safe to assume that it would eventually break out to the upside. This price action is pretty much textbook technical analysis. Anyways, once we broke out of the triangle, we saw a climb and also retest of Fibonacci level and then resume upwards. Overall, this is pretty bullish price action. However, this is where the good news kind of ends. These 2 black lines represent levels of the body and the wick of the all-time high candlestick back in 2017. We see that price had a hard time getting above these levels, and only recently did we see price get above the body of the 2017 all-time highs candle. We still have ways to go in terms of getting over the wick, which is around the $370 range. I guess the only good news to come out of this is that since price is lagging when compared to other cryptos, this can be a good buying opportunity for people who are interested to add more or even just want to start out. But it's important to note that it may be lagging behind other cryptocurrencies due to it not being as hyped up as the others. This means that it will probably not result in as much gains as other cryptocurrencies during this bull cycle phase. I think overall, cryptocurrencies are a pretty good place to store your money for this bull cycle phase. We see astronomical gains, and I'm pretty sure there is not an asset class that acts like crypto. However, once again, it is important to note that since crypto can shoot up in just a matter of a few days, it can also do the opposite and plummet to the ground. Therefore, it is a riskier trade, but the rewards are also higher. Finally, if you're interested in investing in crypto, you probably should watch other videos, as this is not for financial advice, but instead just telling my story on how I started investing. Other than that, I have to make an announcement. I think I'm going to stick to 1 video per week. The 2 videos per week has really started to feel grindy and made YouTube feel like a job, which I never wanted to be. So the Sunday videos will be cancelled. Well, that's it for me. If you like this video, press the like button. If you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll try my best to answer them. If you want to see more content like this, press the subscribe button. This is Books of the Stock Market, and I'll see everyone next week. Thanks.